Welcome to Silicon Valley Successes. On today's show, we have Carlos Reza. He studied economics at Stanford University and has over 25 years of hand-on experience. He is principal of business development for Startup Scale and Consultant. In addition, he serves as an advisor with the Small Business Development Center, SBDC, with the Silicon Valley assisting small businesses to secure funding, secure both corporate and government contracts. And you're going to learn a lot from him in a moment. Carlos, welcome to Silicon Valley Successes. Now, question for you. What is the Small Business Development Center, or SBDC?
Well, Small Business Development Center is exactly what the name says. It's a center that helps small businesses develop, gain access to a number of different things that may be important to thrive and survive.
So, tell me about some of these resources. Say if I'm a startup, I come to you really nervous, but I realize, I should be calm, relaxed. These guys are here to help me. What should I expect when coming to your office, and what are the resources there for me?
Well, one of the barriers that we have to break down right away is the understanding that the services are not being charged to the people that we're working with. So, to take that away is really important in the early stages. And so it's basically a conversation that we're going to have about the objective of the business, and it can be in any stage, whether it's just a thought or whether it's a business that's actually been in existence for a while.
So I can come to the Small Business Development Center for an initial consultant and not get rejected or laughed at?
That's exactly it. In fact, we really love to talk to entrepreneurs or business people because everyone, like myself, the advisors that are working with small businesses have been in the same place at one point or another. And so the conversation actually is really fun.
So Carlos, tell me a little bit about your background and what led you to the SBDC.
Well, what happened, and actually, Sean, I'm not sure if you'll recall, you and I met when I was working with a tech startup. And I was sitting at a convention booth talking and introducing the technology that we were trying to find a place in the world for. And while serving in that position, I actually called a friend that was an engineer that I needed help opening some doors for. Little did I know that that friend was actually working as an advisor, and he recommended that I sign up for services. In very little time, because we were a small company, I realized that I actually had a business development person that should have been highly paid, that wasn't being paid, working on my team. It was fantastic.
And that person is someone from the SBDC?
Yes, that person is an advisor, and he also has his full-time job, which is in engineering.
So tell me about some of these advisors, and actually before even that, tell me about the process of working with the SBDC.
Well, the process is actually, we're a federally funded program. We receive grants, not only federal, but also state and through local entities, corporate grants. And it's really important that the time that we spend with people, we're able to report because we have certain measurements that we have to accomplish.
What are those measurements?
The measurements are actually really simple, and it boils down to two things out of something called the effort to make an economic impact. Economic impact is defined either through one, capital infusion, meaning money coming into a business, or two, proliferation of jobs or preservation of jobs. So jobs and money. And those two things go to actually build and serve the communities that we're working in.
Okay, so you're funded by the California state government, is that correct?
We receive some grants that are federal, state, and local.
Okay, so you're really being paid to help these startups, so it is still a free service to them.
Absolutely.
And tell me about some of these advisors that help them. What are their backgrounds?
Well, their backgrounds are quite an array. It could include individuals that have worked in banking for a very long time. It could be individuals that have backgrounds working in taxation or accounting. It could be others that have a lot of experience writing business plans in a number of different sectors. Another industry could be restaurants or tech. It really varies.
So a week ago, we had Jerry from the Tech Futures Group. Is that something that the Small Business Development Center, is that a group that works with them, or are they completely separate, or is there any collaboration?
There is collaboration, and it's really significant with respect to being able to introduce various opportunities for the right company that's prepared to take that next step. You know, if it's an entity that we're working with that has a product that could value from the Tech Futures Group organization, we will refer them. We'll make sure they're properly prepared and ready to go so that they can gain the most value from the time that they're spending in introducing their company to Tech Futures Group. And so we do collaborate.
And where is the SBDC? Where's your office? Where are you located?
Well, my office serves Santa Clara County, so my office is based in San Jose. However, the SBDC network is throughout the United States. So the opportunity, whatever county you may be in, you might be able to find a small business development center.
Wow. And then what about online resources? Is there any resources there or a website that if I had questions, I might be able to visit and get information from?
Well, the small business development centers do have websites, and we do have information that is posted online. However, we value most from the one-on-one advising that we do. We don't want to just feed a lot of information to people. We want to roll up the sleeves and help them take action.
Tell me about this. Do you have any use cases or examples that you can give me?
I have a lot of examples, and over the past couple of years that I've worked with the Small Business Development Center as an advisor, I've probably walked through a number of different scopes of work with over 100, maybe 200 different companies. It's quite a few, and it could be either in small efforts or wider ones. But one example could be a software company, and I actually got the permission from the proprietor of the company to share the experience that we had with them.
Perfect.
And this company was a software company called Making Sense. The founder was based out of Texas, and he had a development team that he was trying to keep busy, and he came out to the Silicon Valley area to try to acquire some potential work. He landed some work and started doing builds in the user experience and user interface area for the clients that he was able to start working with, and decided that it might be worthwhile to come in and open up an office here and have a presence in the Silicon Valley. And that was actually fantastic because when you think about it, a lot of companies sometimes think that they might be better off by moving out of the state. And this was one that came in to the Silicon Valley, got traction, and actually over the past year has been able to grow over 40%, which is really significant. Well, one of the big obstacles that this company had run into is that the proprietor had a relationship with his bank that he had always worked with. And he went in and said, hey, I need a business loan, because he had grown pretty rapidly and he started having some cash flow needs to help him get over the next level of growth that he had started. So he went through the entire application process. It took an extended period of time to finally get a, no, I'm sorry, you're not the type of business that we work with. And so what we did and what we've designed at the Small Business Development Center is a program to try to compress the time so that businesses that are looking for funding, whether it's traditional through an SBA loan or through other methods, we can identify the right type of funding source, get the introduction going, move as quickly as possible through the application and underwriting process, and then eventually a success. So the success of this software company was that they were able to significantly qualify and get offers for lines of credit as well as traditional loans.
So let's go back. You had mentioned, is someone from SBDC physically sitting there and helping them actually fill out the forms or coaching them and walking them through the process? Or is it more, these are the forms and then they walk away?
Both. Some companies are very well prepared. They've got all their financials, they've got their accountant, they've got access to their records. Others may not have had a whole lot of experience with that. And so what we will do is identify what the needs are and then walk through the process. It's very important to make sure that there's a certain level of comfort, but also accuracy, because you don't want to be filling out some paperwork just to get it done and then get the rejection letter, and there goes a lot of time, and it impacts businesses.
So you'd mentioned all this help that the SBDC can give startups or early stage companies. Is there a maximum amount of time or resources that are allowed to be allocated to one company?
Well, we do have to commit our time by way of scope of work. And that scope
Please define what scope of work means.
Great. Scope of work is basically creating, when we sit down with the different business owners, creating a plan. Do you have a business plan set up? Yes or no? If it's not set up, we'll create that as one scope. The second one is, do you need an introduction to a funding source? If they do, then we'll make sure that the proper paperwork is in place. So scope of work can vary in a number of different areas.
And to find out more information about what we've talked about today and our other episodes, please visit us on siliconvalleysuccesses.com. Also join our LinkedIn group and our Facebook group, where we give you up-to-date information on several topics that we talk about on this show. And now let's go back to our interview with Carlos. Carlos, we've talked a lot about companies coming to the SBDC, about how you have locations all around the U.S. Early stage companies, even with just an idea, can come to you for assistance. And your assistance can range from just pointing them in the right direction to really sitting down with them, coaching them, helping them with their business plan. And we've talked about your background, how we actually met, and I do recall that at the SBIEF event, and it was a lot of fun. But Carlos, tell me about when do the companies move past SBDC? When do they get to that next level? Can you be with them for their whole journey, for just the beginning part of their journey? When is it ideal for the SBDC to be with these companies?
It's ideal when there's a need to be with them, and we define the scope of work, we set the goals, and we go out and accomplish them. If we can't be of service, we'll just let the particular business person know, look, that's not an area that we have identified as something that we're able to do. We can't be all things to all people. It has to be clearly defined as a scope of work, and as I mentioned earlier, with respect to economic impact, Our objective, our job is to serve communities and make economic impact in those communities. However, for the business person, well, they're the CEO. They can make the decision as to whether they feel they're ready to stand on their legs and go their own way and continue on their success.
So that actually is pretty impressive. How many or other resources do the SBDC have? What I mean by that is, are there other groups that you partner with? We mentioned collaborating with the Tech Futures Group, but is there a partnership with local government by chance, or corporations that introductions can be made? What type of reach does the SBDC have in a community for these companies that come to work with them?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we're really excited about at the SBDC out of Silicon Valley is that we are now an extension of the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. We call it the acronym PTAC, that is based out of Humboldt, California. And with the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, we actually have access to all of the different entities that are really trying to reach out to small businesses and do business and award them that contract. And it could be the difference between a company reaching that next level or even stabilizing and surviving during tough times. So we do serve in that area as well. That's a really important resource that I don't think a lot of people are aware of.
Actually, I'd never heard of that either. You mentioned it briefly right there. Is there more information on that you can go into a little bit more detail?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so through the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, we have developed relationships with different entities, whether it's the state of California that is spending, well, if you listen to a presentation by the state of California, they say, we buy everything. And even people that are decision makers will reach out to an audience and say, I want to do business with you if you're a small business. But it's not only the state of California, but also the county of Santa Clara. Their governing body is reaching out in a very open-armed way, extending opportunities to small businesses to, go through their certification process and come in and compete for a contract.
Now, it also says that you're a principal at a small business consulting group. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, yeah. What happened, Sean, after you and I had a chance to meet is I left that I had accomplished my objectives with that tech startup, and I started getting phone calls from people that found out what I had done, and they asked me for help. And some of them had some funding. Others didn't have a whole lot of resources to work with. And so as a result, I not only was able to enter with a direct consulting with some companies, or take advantage of the amazing resources that the Small Business Development have, just to help them get traction.
So you're using the Small Business Development Center and you're consulting in combining the resources to help these companies.
Absolutely.
That's impressive. Tell me a little bit more about another possible success case or company you've worked with.
Well, some of the really fun success cases that we come across are individuals that here in the Silicon Valley have had long careers with some big name firms. We all know the names. And they decide that they want to do something new. And it could be either start their own tech company or maybe even open up a restaurant. And one example is a restaurant that an individual was personally digging into his own pocket to open up a franchise, a new location for a franchise. And he started running out of cash. We were able to go through the entire application process, identify the proper funding source, and bridge a SBA loan for that person. and he just had a grand opening a couple months ago, and it's looking like the future will be very successful for this restaurant.
That sounds like a great success. Also, could you tell me some advice you would give to one of these entrepreneurs working with you? What do you kind of see as a common maybe misconception or area of knowledge that they're lacking in that you would give advice to an entrepreneur out there and go, learn this, research this, or just advice in general?
Well, I think one of the most important things is, I'll say two things. One is passion for your product. If you can present your product with passion, you'll be able to maybe convince some people to dig into their pockets and share their hard-earned money with you in exchange for their product. That goes an incredibly long way, and sometimes there are some challenges that come forward, but it's the passion that keeps the entrepreneur going. The second part is for very early stage companies, say for instance an individual that has an idea and they want to make it come to life, it's really important to start building that community of potential people that might at some point in the future come back and create a revenue stream for you.
Wow. So to go over everything we've talked about today, we've talked about building that revenue stream from day one, getting those potential customers. We've talked about the Small Business Development Center and all the resources and your past, working from a company after you've met your goals to then transition into consultant and then leveraging all these existing groups out there. What did we miss today that you really want the people at home to know about?
Well, I think it's a reiteration of the amazing services that are available through the Small Business Development Center. A lot of people don't know about it. In fact, a lot of tech people in the Silicon Valley just don't know. And small business can mean small in any number of ways. It's just a matter of what is the starting point and what is the goal, and then we go from there.
So with the remaining minutes, what is your ideal client, and how can people learn more about the SBDC, and do you have contact information that you would like to give them?
Our ideal client is a person with a passion for business that is willing to go through the tough times to achieve a business goal. It doesn't have to be someone that's already been in business for a while, and it doesn't have to be someone that is just starting out. It's more identifying the business need and going with it. The way we can be contacted at the Small Business Development Center is through our website typically, which is svsuccesses.org, which stands for Silicon Valley Small Business Development Center.org.
Oh, that's great. And then another question for you. We got a little bit of extra time here today on Silicon Valley Successes. And with that, we have this amazing opportunity to give entrepreneurs at home even more information. Do you have any examples from your life in that 25 years experience of being an entrepreneur, working with entrepreneurs, that you can share with people at home?
I run into this quite a bit, which is individuals that, as I mentioned earlier, have been working with large corporations for a long period of time. At some point, a lot of people may come into a thought of going out and transferring all of their different skills to having their own business. It's not that hard, and in fact, a lot of the skill sets that are built in the corporate world can transition very quickly into the small business if you do the work.
That's fascinating, because I've always heard that if your mentality is corporations, starting your own business is 100% different and such a high failure rate. Whereas you're saying they actually do kind of correlate.
I think so. And, the biggest difficulty for small businesses that are just starting out can a lot of times be the speed to revenue, the speed to profit. That's the tough part for an individual that's been working in the corporate world for a long, long time. But once you start gaining momentum, it just becomes, I think, a little bit easier.
And then, what advice would you have for a foreign company coming to Silicon Valley to set up?
Well, it's really important to establish yourself as a business entity in the particular state or county or city that you want to do business in. That's really important.
And is that something that the SBDC can help with?
Well, we can help, but the very important, since we are governed by SBA rules, Small Business Administration rules, which is a federal program, we want to be sure that entities are creating business and keeping money in our area. It's a little, we're a little challenged when entities want to send it overseas.
Do you have more information on the SBA for people at home that haven't heard of this?
The SBA is sba.org, and there's an amazing amount of information on that, and that's probably a really good direction to go for additional resources.
Okay, and then Carlos, one last thing for you. What one key point would you give to a startup founder?
So a startup founder, I believe building a community of like-minded people in advance of even having a minimum viable product is really important, because you don't want to start identifying sales verticals after you've already got a product, because you're just going to extend the time further and maybe risk your survival.
Carlos, this has been some amazing information. So once again, everyone at home, if you'd like to learn more about our current guests, our past guests, or our future guests, please visit us on SiliconValleySuccesses.com, where we have up-to-date news articles posted quite often. We also have articles on our LinkedIn, Facebook, and our other social media groups. And we are, when you see this, we're getting a lot of that translated into other languages, especially into Chinese. So look for us there on our Weibo and Tencent account. So once again, Carlos, thank you again for coming on our show, and we look forward to having you here in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you from all of us at Silicon Valley Successes. We hope you found the information presented today useful in your path to success. For further information on accessing the resources in Silicon Valley, you may visit us on the web at SiliconValleySuccesses.com, on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you. And remember, we want to help you in your journey to become the next success.